This is specifically about the media and about how the media is affecting us. So there's so much going on right now, and at least in the U.S., it's mostly political. But we're finding that it's affecting all areas of our life. And in the poll that some of you took, you covered the basic 4 areas of our lives that we normally have stress with, normally have issues with, and some other ones as well. But just about everybody talked about either health or finances, relationship. And these are some big issues that we're finding that are more and more important to each of us as we move along through life. And the thing about the media is that when we are listening to the media and we get excited about what's happening and upset about what's happening, it just tends to magnify and increase the problems that we're having in our life. So let's go back to shared screen here, and I'm going to share my PowerPoint presentation with you. This is a new platform for me in doing these webinars, and I appreciate you very much being patient with me and watching me work through this. There are going to be more of these in the future, and I promise that I'll get better, okay? So, how does the media make you feel? Well, I'm guessing that at some place on this screen that you are going to see yourself or some situation that looks familiar to you. I should tell you that while we're in shared screen like this, I'm looking at just that, so I'm not seeing your questions if you have any. So please, if you would, just write those in, and when we get to the Q&A at the end, I'll be covering all of those. But this is the kind of despair, anger, frustration that many people that I talk to and hear from are going through right now. What really is this? Well, it's stress, isn't it? And what are we told? We're told to manage stress. Now, most people would think, well, why don't we just eliminate stress? Why should we have to manage it? Why should we have it at all? Well, a little bit of stress is like having a little bit of tension in your life. It's kind of a good thing because we do have examples of things that have no stress. And those aren't necessarily the way that we want our lives to look, is it? So exactly what is stress and what is the tension that we sometimes feel? Well, tension, for example, you talk about having intention about someone, being in tension. When we have some amount of tension in our bodies, we're able to stand up, we're able to move around, we're able to walk and talk and do everything we have. Without any tension, we'd be like this snowman. But psychologists and doctors tell us that stress is real and that it can cause real problems. You may be very familiar with one of these 5 that are up here on the screen right now. You may also think of other ones that are completely different from this, that something that you really have an issue with yourself, or that you may be going through above and beyond what we are experiencing. So to continue with this, let's think about stress. How real is stress? We live in a society that really likes to focus on problems. And yet many of us come from a background of metaphysics or of spirituality that says that things are only as real as we make them. I love the quote from Ernest Holmes that says basically that we would never say to someone who is sick or who says they are sick that there is no sickness. We would never tell somebody who is in pain that there is no pain. What Holmes said is that our problems are as real as we need them to be. So the question becomes, how real do we need these problems to be? And with regard to the media, The more important thing is, how are we getting upset about problems which either we cannot do anything about or that have absolutely nothing to do with us? So it begs the question here, is it the stress that's causing the problems? Or how much involvement do we have ourselves in what's going on around us? We have an excellent group of teachers that can help us with this issue. And some of you may have some your own. Some of you may know of some, but all of us have been in this group, and that's children. You see, if we allow our adult child to play and to have some fun, it will relieve a lot of the stress in our life, whether it's caused by the media or just life in general. Now, for those of you who may be old enough to remember all that inner child work that we did in the 70s and the 80s, we're not talking about that so much. We're not talking about letting that inner child out. We're talking about the adult child. We're talking about adults having fun. Adults being able to learn to have fun again the way we did normally, we did naturally when we were children. You see, kids aren't serious for the most part. My mother tells people that I was never a child, so fortunately I've learned how to play as an adult. But I was a serious child. There aren't that many of them. Most of the time, kids just want to have fun. And have you noticed, too, how they don't keep grudges? Somebody does something, somebody gets hurt, somebody gets upset about something, and within 5 or 10 minutes, everybody's laughing and playing again and having a good time. Not like adults. Think of how you may have been raised to think about work and play. Are you one of those people that has to have their nose to the grindstone constantly? A person who can only play on the weekends and only play and only have fun after all these things are done? Like always making your bed or always doing the dishes right away? Not that there's anything wrong with these things, but if we're forcing ourselves into doing chores and making life a chore and making life all about work and not about play, it's going to increase our stress level. So one of the things that we see with children is having fun and laughing. Now, you might say, well, you've listened to the media. You know there's not that much out there to make fun of and to laugh about. We've been joking in our household how Saturday Night Live and some of the comedians, they don't have to have writers anymore. All they have to do is just report the news because it's unbelievable. And yet, we can have fun that is not at the expense of a political character or something that's going on in the media that is ridiculous. No, I won't say that. I was going to say that, but I won't say that. Never mind. I was going to get political about something that happened locally. Anyway, let's go on to having fun. Remember that piece of paper I asked you to get, or if you just signed on, there's a piece of paper that I asked you to get, so put that lengthwise. If you haven't already, draw a big rectangle and then line down the middle and line down the middle the other way, so you got 4 boxes. It should look something like this. Okay, y'all with me? I'm going to go out of full screen for just a second. Make sure I don't have any questions. Y'all with me there? Y'all good? Okay. I'm going to assume we're all good then. And we're going to go back to this slide. All right, now these 4 boxes are going to indicate things. And I want you to write down not what comes on the screen, but what is coming on the screen will ask you to do. Okay? Don't think about it. Just let it go. First thing that comes to your mind. Ready? Okay, in your upper left-hand box, write down a color. Not your favorite color necessarily. What color came to your mind? Okay, 3 seconds. 2, 1. Got to move along with this. It's not about thinking. First thing that comes to your mind, okay? Next one, upper right-hand box. Write down an animal. And moving on, lower left-hand box. I am going to give you a little explanation on this one. It throws people. A body of water. It could be a lake, an ocean, stream, whatever. Think of water. When you think of water, what do you think of? And the last one, lower right-hand box. Picture yourself in a totally white room. Give me a feeling, just one feeling. Okay? You should have all those. A color, an animal, body of water, and a totally white room. This is a psychological test that I like to do with students, and I like to do in places like in workshops or seminars like this, because it's an icebreaker. So you know what that color means? The color, according to psychologists, means it's how you see yourself. So whatever color you pick, when you think of that color, what does that color make you feel? Do you feel, if you have blue, for example, does it make you feel sad, or does it make you feel like it's a blue light? Think of what the color is and see if that matches your emotion, your emotional being right now. For the animal, it's how others see you. Now you may have written down a tiger, and yet the way you see yourself is a mouse or as a smaller feline. The body of water. Are you ready for this? Are you sure you're ready for this? Okay, here you go. Yeah, that one always gets a couple of chuckles. We can discuss if you have anything, if there's anything going on here that, if you for a body of water, if you put down a cesspool, I'm just saying, if you need to talk later, you know how to reach me. And the last one is how we feel about death. So that's always a real eye-opening one for me, because even though I know what these meanings are, I'll still do them and pick up the first thing. Sometimes people feel totally at peace. Sometimes people will be very agitated in a white room like that, not being able to see anything but white. So these things, there's two reasons for doing these things. Of course, it can open up a whole spectrum of ideas for you to look at yourself, to deal with somebody that you trust, or to do some writing on. But the other thing is that it's fun. And that's the important thing here, because I can almost guarantee you that in the last couple of minutes while we've been doing this, you haven't been stressed out about anything. You've just been doing something. And there's the key. It's to get our minds off of the stress. So what stresses you out? On that poll that we took earlier, some of you took earlier, many of you did, that are on the call right now, so I really appreciate that, is each of you touched on at least one, if not more, of the 4 basic reasons people have stresses or problems or call counselors or see therapists. Money, a job, a relationship, and health. Now, I've been doing counseling and working with people for going on 3 decades. These are the only 4 issues I've ever had to pray about, do spiritual mind treatment about, do counseling about. Now, Reverend David Alt, Dr. David Alt down in Atlanta at the Spiritual Living Center of Atlanta, he has a 5th one, and that's spirituality. And I agree with that. Those are the 5 areas of life. But when it comes to problems, issues, things that really stress us out, it's usually one of these 4. Well, how does that show up? Well, money can show up in our ideas about money and what it means. A job can show up whether we're looking at an occupation versus a career, or it can show up in the area of full self-expression or even retirement. You may have a job that you go to that supports what you really like to do, or you may have a career that is actually what you have to fulfill your vision in life. But how we feel about those things, and if we're in the job and we really want to be in the career, those can cause stresses. Relationships, all types of relationships, not just love relationships as in romantic love relationships, but relationships with our children, or the fact that we don't have children in a relationship, or relationships with our parents, if they're still in their lives or if they're no longer in our lives for one reason or another. Relationships that we have with our neighbors, the people we work with, or even our clients if we're in business. And when it comes to health, it can be our own health or the health of others if we're having to work with someone or care for someone who's having a health issue. Additional stresses in our life, you can think of probably other ones that we could talk about later if you have issues with them and you'd like to discuss them. But holidays bring up a lot of stress for people. The lack of private time or having too much private time and not getting out and being social can be a stressor. And labels, not just how other people label us, but how we label ourselves, whether we feel we're too old or too young or too not educated enough or the whole thing. I'm too fat, I'm too skinny, I'm too whatever. All these labels that we put on ourselves, which are usually worse than what other people put on us. Now, so you're aware of what these are. You may have come up with some others. This is no surprise. The question is, how do we deal with this? Well, specifically, from the media standpoint, there's a couple of real practical suggestions. One of them I got from Dr. James Rouse. He writes for Science of Mind magazine, Guides for Spiritual Living. He does the Revealing Health magazine article. And I heard him speak a couple years ago at a convention. And the first thing he said was no TV and no devices during meals or before bed. In fact, in their house, he and his wife, they do not have anything on electronic after 6 o'clock at night. Interesting thought, because not only are we not around that radiation and that energy, but you're also not feeding yourself. I know a lot of people that, they can't go to bed until they've heard the news. Personally, that's the last thing that I want to think about before I go to bed, because when I'm going to sleep, I write in my gratitude journal, and I do my forgiveness exercises for myself and anyone else that I can think of. And then I give grateful thanks for every cell and part of my body and for all the wonderful people in my body. Oh, somebody's going to write in about that. All the wonderful people in my life. And, okay, I'm blushing. And then also what I want to do in the next day. I don't want to be thinking about the media and the news. So think about that. In our family, we have a no device during dinner and during meals. We want to concentrate on each other. Now, your email, is it binging? If you have a mobile device, is it binging all the time, pinging all the time, making sounds all the time? I've started checking my email in the morning and in the afternoon, sometimes during the day if I'm actually working within it. But do we really actually have to have those emails coming in all the time? Well, it keeps going off. Well, here's another suggestion. Get rid of your automatic updates. Seriously. CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, BBC, NPR, they are having breaking news every 5 to 10 minutes. Seriously? I mean, it's like the little boy crying wolf half the time. We don't need to have that information. Today, I didn't listen to anything. I was busy working on this presentation. I had other things to do. I got to go to our local high school today to participate in a program. I didn't listen to the news all day long. And you know what? I didn't miss anything important. I do have some automatic alerts on my phone for weather, because we're in an area where we do have sometimes severe weather, and I do the Amber Alerts. If you're not in the U.S., I don't know in other countries, but we have what we call the Amber Alert. If there's a child that's been abducted, to look out for the car. So I have that. But these other ones, no. I don't need to have it binging in at me all the time, interrupting my life and doing upsetting my mind and upsetting my train of thought. Get rid of it. You don't have to be that connected. Choose the channel of your media. Okay? So I have some favorites that I listen to. I'm not going to tell you what they are. I don't want to influence you. But look at what you are listening to and see if it's really something that you can rely on, or if it's just gossip. Look at the type of TV shows you're watching. Are they encouraging? There was a couple about a year ago. I was going through something and I found that I had to stop watching two of my favorite shows because I'd actually be shaking afterwards. I couldn't handle it for whatever reason. So I just stopped watching them. Refuse to argue about politics. We hear a lot about that on the media. Even if you're not in the U.S., you're hearing about what's happening in the U.S. and how it might affect your country. So don't argue about politics. Discuss it if you choose. Seek to understand, not to be understood. So seek out people who have different opinions to really listen to why they believe they will and try to understand that. Have some compassion. Try to get to acceptance if we can't at least get to tolerance. And seek out like-minded people, because you want to be around people who are encouraging to you, not to stick with what you necessarily believe. Not that we can't have other ideas, but if people that we're around are always negative and we're trying to be positive, it's going to be more difficult. The other big question is, how does what I'm listening to affect me right now? I mean right now. Think about that. Sometimes we get so upset about things that are happening around us that we forget that we may or may not even have any way of affecting this change other than to not reflect that in our own lives. Some other practical suggestions generally. Do we have a willingness to change? Change is the only constant in the universe. So if we're doing something over and over again and expecting different results, we're probably not going to be very happy. Physically, what can we do? Are we moving around physically? Dr. Roos also said, never spend more than 45 minutes in front of your computer. Get up and walk around. Most of us have, if you're out in the workforce, the majority of us in the workforce have sedentary jobs. Even though I don't have a full-time job that is sedentary, I have a full-time job that is very active. But when I'm at home, I'm often in front of the computer writing or working on projects. Mentally, what can we do? Are we doing things that are mentally stimulating? Learning new language, watching TV programs, or taking classes or reading books just to learn something just because we want to. Spiritually, and if most of the people that have signed on that I've saw before we started this, I know that you have a spiritual path, but even if you're listening to this later and you are atheist or agnostic or don't have a spiritual path, think of this as, how do you connect with others around you? How do you connect with the world around you? And remember that spirituality and religion are not necessarily the same thing. They are for some people, but in many cases, religion tends to get in the way of our spirituality. And where do we go to for support? Are we really seeking out the people who can support us, or are we spending our time around people that will bring us down, and they're not in a place where we can help to bring them up? And practice. All of these things are practice. We have to continue to practice them day after day. Does it get tiring? Yeah. Someone said, well, I can't do this and this and this all the time. It's like, so take the day off. Don't go to the gym. Don't take the walk. Don't make your bed. Just don't make a habit out of it. But yeah, we have to listen to each of our body parts. What's the physical need? What is the mental need? What is the spirituality of our side? The emotional side. What are our needs, and be willing to ask for them and have them. I try to provide some of that. As some of you already know, you're already on my blog or know where to find it. I have a number of books that are available on Amazon.com and iUniverse. If you want to sign up for my weekly blogs, there's a lot of reasons for doing that. You can go right to my website and just sign up with a couple of entries on the homepage. You get a weekly message and a treatment meditation on Mondays, and then you get the weekly blog first on Friday. And you also, just for signing up, you get a free ebook, which is kind of nice. You also get advance notice of all webinars and classes and future publications. You also get a free copy of all my new publications, which is kind of nice. But one of those new publications will be soon included is my next book. It is coming out late summer, early fall. I'm just finishing up, and it's about to go to my editor. This is the most people know more about my grandma Esther than they know about Ernest Holmes or Jesus Christ or anybody else. So we finally have a book about it, and using all those weird and wacky and sometimes irreverent sayings of Grandma Esther, and how she can, that wisdom that she had from a very uneducated woman from a school standpoint, how wise she really was, and how we can use that in our life. I also have a ministries, which some of you know, Spirit, Mind, and Body Foundation. And I have been a minister for going on 30 years. I'm also a licensed social worker, and I was a body worker, a massage therapist for 25 years. So my ministry is about holistically involving all those. And we are also, the foundation is also philanthropic. 40% of everything that comes to the foundation goes out to like-minded individuals or organizations. We've been able to support some amazing people and organizations in the last 3 years. So if you are looking for a place to support, know that whatever support that the foundation receives from you is also going out to other like-minded organizations. And there's the look at where you can find more information on Spirit, Mind, and Body Foundation and what we are up to. So I just want to thank you very much for showing up. I'm going to go out of full screen and stop sharing here. And stop sharing. And we're back. Okay. So let's see what some of you, I can't read what you put for body of water. Oh my goodness. Okay. So, see the questions, everything we're talking about here, we're talking about the body of water. Okay, so if any of you want to share that later with me, you can, or with each other. How we, let's see, Melinda, how we label others can create the stress response. Absolutely. Absolutely. Is that not true, or what? We can certainly see that. It's so easy to label and to assume. I know a couple of times I've seen someone and I think, God, what a miserable person. How, why is she being so cranky? And then you go up to them and you're nice, or you smile, and then suddenly it's like this veil lifts them, and you find out that you may be the only person that was nice to them that day. All right. I promised you a 30-minute webinar. We are at 30 minutes because I just talked too long. So does anyone have any questions? I'm willing to stay on a little bit longer and talk about any questions that you have. So in the chat box there, if you have any other questions or comments that you'd like to discuss, please put them up there. What are your suggestions for de-stressing? Well, coming from a guy, you'll probably find this, again, here's a label, okay? I do bubble baths and candlelight. I also meditate. I practice transcendental meditation, TM. My goal is to do that 10 to 20 minutes in the morning and in the afternoon. I don't always do that. I feel a lot better when I do. And sometimes that is just very centering for me. I have other practices. I talked a little bit about what I do before I go to bed at night. And I take care of my body. When I get up in the morning, one of the first things I do is I squeeze the juice of one lemon into some warm water. It just kind of clears me out. So, I mean, we're not just talking about spiritual things. We're talking about what we can do for our physical life. I make sure that I walk at least 3 days a week, and I'd like a 20 to 30-minute walk. And then I work out with a Bowflex machine, so I do some physical things. Patricia was talking about massages. Yeah, walks on the beach. Oh, I grew up in Santa Barbara, California. So I miss my walks on the beach, being landlocked here in Pennsylvania. And massages, I'm not bragging. I'm sharing this as a goal. If those of you who enjoy massage, I have always wanted to have at least 2 massages a month. It's taken me years, even as a massage therapist, I didn't get them. And I have a guy that comes to our house, and I get 2 massages a month now. And the way that I treat my body and is very good in that sense, because I know if I don't take care of myself, I'm not going to be able to work at the level that I work. And I ask a lot of my body. So that is something that I do for myself. Meditation and prayer, so many different types of prayer. For those of you who aren't familiar with scientific affirmative prayer, or what Ernest Holmes called spiritual mind treatment, I'm going to be doing a class on that I'm preparing over the next couple of months. There's going to be more of these, more webinars and more classes. You're welcome, Brenda. Thank you for showing up for the webinar, and Patricia I'm delighted to take the time to offer these. And it's important that I think that it's offered to people as a way to share. I don't, as you can see, I don't have a fancy studio. I don't have a fancy backdrop or anything, and nobody is filming me. I'm just doing this on my desk, and it's just important for me that we get information out and share information with one another. I'm also going to take some of my talks. I started a ministry over 20 years ago, and as a pastor, so I have a lot of talks that I'm converting to PowerPoints and presentations like this that we'll be putting up as well. So are we all on your email list now? Yes and no. You're on the Expertise TV webinar email list, which I am still learning how to use. So if you want to get on my full email list that talks not only about what is happening on Expertise TV, which is the platform that I'm using for these, go to my website, terrydrewkeranen.com, and on the first page they just sign up your name and your zip code, or it tells you if you're not in the U.S. how to do that. And that's just about all you'll get from me, is those 2 emails a week then. Thank you, Melinda. So we are going to close out here. If any of you have any other questions, just send them on through to me, terry@terrydrewkeranen.com. You can also send me messages on the this platform that we're on now, Expertise TV, and I will get them there as well. So thank you so much for showing up. It's been a pleasure being with you, ladies. And for those of you who are listening to the recorded issue or recorded version, thank you for taking time out of your day. Goodbye and have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you again soon. Take care.